All right, let's dive in. Today we're tackling Neil Gaiman's The Sandman.
Oh, a classic.
It really is. And we're using like this academic analysis to really break it down.
Nice, nice. Always good to have a guide.
Right. But even if you're not into like graphic novels or whatever, The Sandman is like just amazing. Seriously. The characters, the philosophy, the stories, it's just breathtaking.
I'm with you there. It's one of those really special works that just sticks with you.
Yeah, we're focusing on love and loss today.
Big topics.
Huge, right. And how they're all like tied together in The Sandman.
Yeah, it's not just a surface level look at those things. It goes deep, like really dark.
Right.
It gets to the core of how love and loss are intertwined.
Okay, so anyone not familiar with The Sandman?
Yeah.
They're these like immortal beings called the Endless.
Right, not your typical gods or anything.
No, not at all. More like
Personifications of like fundamental forces.
yeah. You've got dream, death, desire, despair, destiny, delirium, destruction.
Oh, you really know you're endless.
And their relationships are like just as interesting as the human stuff.
Well, for sure. I mean, it's within those relationships, right?
Yeah.
Both between the endless themselves
Yeah.
and with the humans they encounter.
Right.
That we really see how complicated love can be.
And we see that complexity, right, in Morpheus.
The Sandman himself.
Sandman himself, king of dreams.
Yeah.
Super
What's
powerful.
thinking he's not above love's influence.
Right. His past loves, Nada and Calliope, show how much love like affects him. But he imprisons Nada in hell.
For centuries?
For centuries. I mean, what do you...
Tough love, right?
I mean, yeah. It's a really dark turn.
Definitely. But it shows you, that even powerful beings can be blinded by love.
By love and by, pride and...
Duty, that sense of duty.
Yeah. Like he couldn't reconcile his feelings with Nada and with his own, sense of betrayal.
Right. So he makes this huge, arguably really harsh decision.
It really makes you think, like, can love...
It does?
Even love become, like, a source of suffering?
It's a tough question, especially,
because
Morpheus is supposed to be like the embodiment of dreams and imagination.
Yeah. So what do you think about that?
Well, it's challenging. He's this being who is obviously capable of like intense love.
Mm-hmm.
But then he acts in this really, possessive and controlling way.
Makes you wonder, right?
It does.
If love, especially when it's
when it's unrequited
or unfulfilled or
complicated.
Yeah, can become something like darker.
Right. And that's a big theme throughout the Sandman, the potential for love to be destructive.
Oh yeah. When it's not understood or like not properly handled.
Not channeled the right way. But Morpheus isn't the only one dealing with this.
Right. You've got the Endless themselves.
Yeah, and they represent like all these different sides of love.
Yeah. You have Death, who's surprisingly, like, nice.
Right. Compassionate.
Yeah.
Understanding.
Yeah. More like a guide than a Grim Reaper.
Yeah.
And then you have Dream, who's...
More distant. Yeah.
But still, he's super influential on human desire.
On desire, creation, all of that.
Yeah. It's almost like Gaiman saying, love isn't one thing.
Right.
It's this whole spectrum.
Oh, I like that.
Right. From Death's like pure unconditional care to Dream's more, possessive love.
Yeah. And you see that with Nada, with Calliope.
Oh, absolutely.
And I mean, their relationships with each other.
The Endless? Oh, yeah.
Like Dream and Desire, super rivals.
Super rivals.
But then Dream and Death, they're close. It's kind of sweet.
Camaraderie, right. Like they really look out for each other.
It's like a cosmic soap opera.
It really is. But it also shows how complicated family love can be.
Definitely. Like it can be so joyful.
Yeah.
But also like the source of all this
conflict.
Conflicts, yeah.
Right. And Gaiman's saying even immortals.
Even cosmic beings aren't above that.
Not above it. Okay. But shifting gears a little.
Yeah.
Loss.
The other side of the coin.
Right. It's everywhere in The Sandman.
Pervasive, yeah.
Always there, tied to love.
Always. And it pushes characters to, like, change.
To transform.
Transform, yeah.
Yeah.
Makes them, face their weak points.
Yeah.
And come out different on the other side.
Like Morpheus. I mean, he goes through so much.
Oh, he does.
Failed romances, his son Orpheus dying.
Tragic stuff.
It's rough. But you see how those experiences You know,
They change him.
they change him, make him evolve.
Right. And that's what the Sandman is getting at with loss, I think.
Okay.
It's awful.
Yeah.
But it's also this chance to grow.
Not just about being sad.
No. It's about what comes after the sadness.
But that's good.
You know? Like, Leda Hall. She goes through so much grief.
She does.
But it shows that you can, like, move forward, find strength, even purpose.
In the loss, yeah. So what's the biggest takeaway for you about how the Sandman shows loss?
I think it's that losing someone doesn't make love weaker.
Oh.
It makes it, like, even stronger. Because the memories become part of who you are.
Oh, that's deep.
They shape you, your choices, how you see the world. And the Sandman really emphasizes that.
It does.
Yeah.
But, you know, it's not all doom and gloom. There's also sacrifice.
Sacrifice for love, yeah.
Heartbreaking, but so inspiring. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, you can't talk about sacrifice without talking about Morpheus's choice to die.
To save the dreaming.
Yeah. That's like the ultimate act of love.
Giving up something so precious to save everyone else.
Exactly. And what's cool is that Gaiman uses other characters to, like, echo that.
Like,
Orpheus going to the underworld for his wife, Eurydice, and Nada rejecting Dream for her people. These huge sacrifices, all because of love.
Yeah. Shows how far someone will go for what they believe in.
For love, yeah.
It's like love and sacrifice.
Two sides of the same coin.
Two sides. And even though it's painful,
Yeah.
those sacrifices say so much about how powerful love is.
Exactly.
It's not just like affecting those involved, you know, it ripples out,
Oh.
changing destinies, changing history.
It's like love and sacrifice are woven into, like, the fabric of the universe in the Sandman. It's beautiful, but also, like, a little terrifying.
Right. But let's not get too dark. The Sandman also shows how love can be eternal.
Oh, absolutely. That's one of the most hopeful parts.
What are some examples?
Well, you've got the endless themselves.
Yeah.
Their bonds last for millennia.
Yeah.
Suggesting that some connections just go on.
And hobgaddling and dreaming.
Centuries-long friends.
Centuries? It's so heartwarming, real connect. That lasts through, you know, a really long life.
And death. The way she interacts with mortals.
She's so compassionate.
It really shows you that love has an impact even after we die.
Like, it doesn't just disappear.
No, it lives on in people's memories. And maybe, you know, in some bigger sense, too.
I love that. But, of course, the Sandman doesn't shy away from the less happy stuff.
Right.
It's brutally honest about unrequited love.
And its consequences.
Yeah. It's pretty hard to ignore.
Definitely a force to be reckoned with in this story. Unrequited love can cause so much pain.
And frustration.
And frustration, yeah. And desire is the perfect example of that.
Desire always driven by jealousy.
Longing for what they can't have.
Yeah, they really embody the dark side of love.
For sure. And it's interesting, right? Even Morpheus, with all his power, he experiences unrequited love too.
With Nada and Calliope.
Exactly. It shows you how hard it can be to let go of those feelings, even when they're causing you pain.
What do you think readers are supposed to take away from that? It's like that lingering what if,
right?
That feeling that things could have been different.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it.
I think the Sandman is saying that unrequited love, if you don't deal with it.
If you don't process it in a healthy way.
It can trap you.
In these cycles of bitterness and longing.
Like emotional baggage you just can't get rid of.
Exactly. And it stops you from moving on, from finding something new.
Okay, but speaking of tough situations, you've got the conflict between love and duty.
Always a classic.
It comes up all the time in the Sandman.
Definitely.
Morpheus as the ruler of the dreaming.
Yeah.
He's constantly stuck between what he wants.
And what he's supposed to do.
Yeah. And his relationship with Nada shows just how bad things can get.
When those two things clash.
It's that classic question, isn't it?
Do I follow my heart or my obligations?
Yeah. And the Sandman is like, there's no easy answer.
Nope. Morpheus is practically trapped, you know?
By his duty.
And it stops him from
from acting on his feeling.
From being with Nada.
It's a struggle that a lot of the human characters deal with, too.
Totally. Lyda Hall, Rose Walker.
Yeah, they all face similar dilemmas.
It really makes you think about your own life, you know?
It does.
About the choices we make.
And the compromises we have to make.
What do you think Gaiman's trying to say about those sacrifices?
Well, I don't think he's saying they're all bad.
No?
They can lead to growth.
Okay.
To understanding yourself better.
And seeing the world differently.
Exactly. It forces the characters to, really think about their values.
Big priorities.
And they come out stronger.
More aware.
Yeah. It's not about avoiding sacrifice altogether.
Right.
It's about seeing how those experiences can help you grow.
It's about finding meaning, even when things are hard.
Exactly, even when it hurts. But we can't talk about love and loss without talking about death.
Yeah, it's like this
looming presence, this shadow hanging over everything.
And it makes everything so much more
poignant.
Poignant, yeah. And you see that in how, like, Hobgadling,
who lives forever.
Right.
And Orpheus, who has eternal life.
They have these totally opposite views on how death affects love and loss.
It's like two extremes.
Two sides of the same coin again.
Yeah. Hob keeps on living while everyone around him ages and dies.
It makes you think, doesn't it?
About whether, like, a limited lifespan
makes our connections more valuable.
More meaningful.
Makes us appreciate the present more.
And then you've got Orpheus, who's forever separated from Eurydice.
Trapped in grief.
It's like a warning, right?
It is.
About how heavy immortality can be.
Especially when it comes to love and loss.
Yeah. It seems like Gaiman's saying both extremes, immortality and mortality.
They come with their own challenges.
When it comes to love.
There's no escaping it.
The complexities.
The messiness. It's part of being human.
And that's what makes the Sandman so good. It doesn't shy away from the tough stuff. It embraces it.
It really does.
Makes you confront those questions.
Alongside the characters.
And find your own meaning.
Yeah. The Sandman doesn't give you the answers. It makes you find them yourself.
I love that.
It's fascinating, though, isn't it? How even with, like, death hanging over everything.
Yeah.
The Sandman still shows that love has a real impact.
Even with endings.
Even when things end, like Dream, his relationships with mortals, they're always so bittersweet.
Because they can't last.
Right. But they change him, like, a lot.
Okay.
He starts off so, rigid,
Yeah.
emotionally distant. But those human connections,
Yeah.
with all their complications, all the contradictions,
Mm-hmm.
they help him understand what it means to be human.
To, like, actually feel things.
Exactly. They chip away at that, like, aloofness he has.
Yeah.
Show that he can be empathetic, compassionate.
It's like a trade-off.
How so?
The beauty of those connections. It's because they're fragile.
Because they don't last.
Yeah. Knowing they won't last forever makes each moment so much more, I don't know.
Precious.
Precious, yeah. And it brings up something else. The Sandman does so well.
What's that?
Showing that love doesn't have to be romantic to be, like, really deep.
Oh, absolutely. Like the bonds between siblings, the loyalty between friends, the love between a parent and child. The Sandman really gives those relationships weight.
And the family stuff. Especially with the Endless.
Oh, it's so good.
They bicker, they fight.
They challenge each other.
But underneath it all,
that love,
that loyalty is all still there.
It's a reminder that family isn't about being perfect.
No.
It's messy, it's hard, sometimes it even hurts.
But those bonds.
Especially when they've lasted for, thousands of years. They're so powerful.
Okay, so we've talked about how love can be this driving force, but also destructive.
Mm-hmm.
But what about when characters choose love over duty?
Interesting question. It definitely happens.
Does it?
And it usually has some pretty big consequences. Well, think about Orpheus.
Okay.
Trying to get Eurydice back from the underworld.
Right.
That goes against, like, the natural order of things.
Because he's so driven by love.
Exactly.
Yeah.
He's willing to risk it all.
Even challenge, like, the balance of life and death.
It shows how powerful love is, but it's also, like, a warning.
About being reckless.
Yeah. About unintended consequences.
And it doesn't end well for him.
No, it doesn't. But it raises some really important questions about how far we'd go for love and when duty has to come first. What are your thoughts on that?
I don't know. It's like, does love really conquer all?
That's the big question, isn't it?
Or are there times when duty has to win?
Even if it breaks your heart.
Yeah. The Sandman doesn't give you an easy answer.
It doesn't, but it definitely makes you think about it.
Makes you confront it.
And that's the point. It wants you to grapple with your own values, with the choices you make when you're faced with those kinds of challenges. It's about, like, figuring out your own boundaries.
Yeah.
What you're willing to sacrifice for love, for duty. What resonated with you about those dilemmas?
It's that there's rarely, a right answer.
It's messy.
Yeah, life is messy.
It is.
And sometimes you have to make really tough choices.
With no easy solutions.
The Sandman reminds you it's okay to struggle with those choices.
To be conflicted.
Yeah, to acknowledge that things aren't always black and white.
To embrace the gray areas.
Exactly. Our source material mentions forgiveness.
Forgiven.
As like key to healing from loss. What do you think about how that plays out in the Sandman?
It's essential.
Is it?
Forgiving yourself, forgiving others, it's how you heal.
Okay.
And you see it most clearly with Morpheus. He carries that guilt for centuries.
About nada?
Yeah. But eventually, he faces it, admits he was wrong, and finds some peace.
So it's not just about, like, internal forgiveness.
No, it goes beyond that, like Lita Hall.
Really?
She learns to forgive the people who hurt her.
And that lets her move on.
Break free from all that bitterness.
Like, forgiveness is this key.
Unlocks the door to healing.
And growth.
Exactly. And it's a powerful message.
Especially in the Sandman, where characters are always dealing with loss.
Betrayal. Tough choices.
Yeah, yeah. Speaking of things that linger, how about memory?
Memory.
How does that help keep love alive, even after someone's gone?
Memory's crucial. The stories we tell.
Yeah.
The pictures we keep.
The feeling.
The feelings, yeah. It all adds up to this, like, lasting legacy of love.
And in the Sandman.
Memories woven into everything.
Wow.
It's part of existence itself.
Characters like Dream, they're shaped by their memories.
Good and bad.
It's how they learn,
How they grow.
how they make sense of things.
Memory becomes a bridge
Between the past and the present.
It lets us stay connected to people who aren't physically there anymore. Exactly, and it brings us back to mortality.
We talked about how it makes love more
Poignant.
Yeah, poignant. But how does the Sandman really show how mortality affects love?
I think it's saying cherish the people you love while you can.
Because our time is limited.
Because nothing lasts forever.
It makes you appreciate every moment.
Every interaction.
Yeah. Like hobgaddling.
He's got that unique perspective, right?
Living for centuries.
In his friendship with Dream.
With those century-long meetings.
It's a perfect example of how connection can endure.
Even when everything else is changing.
It's like Hob becomes this like embodiment of memory.
Yeah.
He carries centuries of love and loss with him.
Wow.
And we see both the beauty and the sadness of a life that long.
It's so different from, like, mortal love.
It is. But it raises a good question.
What's that?
How does the Sandman reconcile, you know?
What do you mean?
The fact that human love is temporary,
Yeah.
but its effects are forever?
That is a good question.
I think it's saying that, yeah, individual connections might end,
Yeah.
but the love they create, it spreads out.
Okay.
It leaves a mark. Think of it like a pebble in a pond.
Okay.
The ripples keep going
Even after.
even after the pebble's gone.
That's beautiful.
It's like those ripples are the legacy of love,
Yeah.
how it changes us.
Connects us.
It becomes part of something bigger.
Than ourselves.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Than any one person.
We've talked about requited love, sacrifice, how it lasts. But the Sandman doesn't ignore the dark side either.
The darker side of love.
Unrequited love.
It's so powerful.
It can be so inspiring, but also destructive.
The Sandman explores both sides.
Right, right.
It can push you to do great things,
It's creative.
but it can also lead to obsession.
Jealousy.
Yeah, even harmful actions.
And desire is a perfect example.
The embodiment of that.
Always wanting what they can't have.
Creating chaos.
What stands out to you about how the Sandman handles that?
I think it's the honesty. It doesn't try to make it seem less painful.
Right.
Or pretend there are no consequences. It shows those feelings as real.
Okay.
But it stresses how important it is to deal with them in a healthy way.
To find ways to move on.
Exactly. It's not about suppressing your feelings. It's
Yeah.
about acknowledging them.
Yeah.
Dealing with them.
And then
Choosing a path that leads to healing, not more pain.
that brings us back to transformation.
Which is at the heart of the Sandman.
Characters are always evolving.
Changing.
And it's usually because of love and loss.
It reminds you that even when things are tough,
Yeah.
we can grow. We can learn.
We can become more than we were before.
Exactly. Growth is part of what makes us human.
Yeah.
And the Sandman shows how love and loss can push us to grow.
Whether it's Morpheus learning to forgive
Or Lita Hall finding strength after tragedy.
or hobgaddling with those long-lasting connections.
They teach us about resilience, about adapting, about how transformative love can be.
It's beautiful, really.
It is.
It really is.
Yeah.
Those human connections, even though they're short,
They teach him so much.
about compassion.
Empathy.
Yeah. It's amazing to see how even these, immortal, powerful beings
Yeah.
can change.
Can grow.
It shows that love is, like, dynamic. It can shape anyone, anything.
Even the endless. Speaking of powerful forces,
Right.
where do you think desire fits into all of this?
Desire. They're like that basic urge for connection.
That yearning.
Yeah, the yearning.
Yeah.
That drives us. It's passionate. It's chaotic.
It can be a lot to handle.
It's like the hidden side of love, right?
The shadow side.
Yeah. The part we try to ignore.
But the Sandman is like, nope, you gotta acknowledge it.
Embrace all the feelings, even the dark ones.
It's all part of being human.
Love is complicated.
Oh, absolutely.
It's joy, it's sorrow, it's longing, it's heartbreak.
It's a whole package.
Yeah. And by exploring all of that,
You start to understand yourself better.
and your place in the world,
That's the genius of the Sandman, really.
it doesn't shy away from anything.
Yep.
It embraces it all.
The good, the bad, the ugly.
And it invites you to do the same. I totally agree. It stays with you.
It really does. Makes you think, makes you feel.
Makes you question everything.
About love, about loss, about what it means to be human.
So as we wrap up this deep dive, what are some, key takeaways?
Yeah.
What do you want our listener to walk away with?
Well, first off, I hope they realize just how amazing Neil Gaiman is.
As a storyteller.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He created this world that's fantastical, but also so real.
And tackles these huge themes.
In ways that are both smart and emotionally powerful.
It really sticks with you.
It does. I also hope they see that love isn't just one thing.
Right.
The Sandman doesn't just show romantic love.
No. It's family love. It's friendship.
It's even love for, the universe itself.
And it shows how all those kinds of love can change you.
Challenge you, connect you to everyone else.
Have a whole kaleidoscope of love.
It really is. And lastly, even though the Sandman goes to some dark places,
It's ultimately a hopeful story.
hopefully.
It shows how strong people can be, how we can change, how love can heal us, even redeem us.
Even when we mess up.
Exactly.
Okay.
Even when we make mistakes.
The Sandman is about life, with all its ups and downs.
The good, the bad, the beautiful, the heartbreaking.
It's about connecting with other people. It's about the choices we make. And it's about how powerful love can be.
And if you're listening to this thinking, man, I need to read The Sandman.
Yes.
Do it. Jump into the dreaming. Let Gaiman's story take you away.
I couldn't agree more. It's a gift, honestly. It'll stay with you. And who knows?
Yeah.
Maybe it'll inspire you to dream bigger.
To love more fiercely.
Yeah. And to really appreciate everything life throws at you.
What a great thought. One last thing for our listener.
Okay.
Think about how The Sandman connects to your experiences. What does it tell you about your own relationships? About the tough times you've been through? And how love has shaped your life?
That's a great point. We covered a lot today.
We did, but The Sandman is a story that everyone can connect with differently.
It speaks to you in a way that's unique.
Yeah. It reminds us that even in this world, full of dreams and shadows, connections matter.
Human connection makes it all worthwhile.
It really does. So, for now, we're saying goodbye to the dreaming.
Farewell.
But the stories, they don't really end.
They stay with us.
In our hearts, in our memories, in the ways we connect with others.
Keep dreaming, keep exploring, and keep embracing this crazy journey we call life.
And never forget, like Gaiman wrote, things need not have happened to be true. Tales and dreams are the shadow truth that will endure when mere facts are dust and ashes and forgot.